Welcome back to League of Ireland Lowdown with ourselves here at Bar One Betting. I'm your host, Kieran Burke, delighted to be joined as ever by former League of Ireland manager Shane Keegan. We had no episode last week as it was FAI Cup weekend, but it's back to League Matters this week, so plenty to get through. Shane, did you enjoy the World Cup first of all?
I did, yeah. It was a brilliant few weeks, Kieran. Look, unfortunately, we didn't probably get the final. And look, I know World Cups unfortunately do tend to get remembered based on the standard of semi-finals and finals. Really, I thought the standard overall up until we reached that point was outstanding, arguably the best we've ever seen. But yeah, some of the razzle dazzle around it has been stripped away by. Listen, one of the semis was good, I suppose. The other was tame enough, and then a poor final, unfortunately. But of course, Kieran, I did tip Spain in our podcast looking at it. So happy out on that side of things anyway. But I thought they were excellent throughout the tournament. I really, really did.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that. So well done. Always good to keep the receipts, Shane. Good man. Yes, that was the World Cup. It was enjoyable. Talk of 64 teams for the next one. I would have been very anti 48 teams, but I have to say I'm more open to the idea now. Maybe there's selfishness there that it's more likely we'll qualify if there's 64 teams. But I thought there was a really good carnival atmosphere feel to the World Cup, and obviously there was a lot of concerns about maybe politics, etc., before the World Cup. I suppose in America, there was that ready-made fan base for every nation, even if they didn't have a lot of supporters traveling over. There was that large immigrant population for a lot of the countries there. So it did have a real carnival atmosphere feel about it. And I think the more teams that we can have at the big party, maybe the better.
Yeah, I'd largely agree with that, to be honest. I certainly agree with the fact that we're looking at it with Republic of Ireland tinted glasses on as well. That's for sure, but so we should be. But yeah, I think you can make the argument that, okay, by going up to 64, are you diluting the quality? But if it does mean that we've got a more straightforward format of you have to finish in the top two in your group, well, then I think there's positives for that as well. More nations in, but very clear cut top two, and now you get, more competitive groups, certainly in terms of, the having to win matches and third not being good enough. So I think there is an upside to it. Whether, I don't know, can it still be done in time for the next one? Next one's in where Morocco, Portugal, and Spain, I think, isn't
Yeah.
it? Whether it can be, whether the qualifying format can be structured in such a way to allow it to happen that quickly. Possibly. Look, it's not a million miles away from us here. We'd love to think that we'd all be heading in that direction in 4 years' time, wouldn't we?
Look, hopefully we'll have a Euros before then, hopefully to worry about. But look, that's the international football for now. Obviously, the Nations League gets underway in September, so we'll probably be having a chat about that on the show at some stage down the line. But back to League of Ireland matters on this week's show. Last weekend, FAI Cup weekend, the early rounds of the Cup can kind of just come and go without really generating too much headlines. Unfortunately, again, we saw very one-sided results in terms of non-league teams going up against the league teams. But the one big story we did get, that came at Mounthawk Park in Tralee, where Shelbourne were knocked out on penalties by Kerry in what was John Russell's first game in charge. And obviously Russell has been appointed since we last spoke. So just get your thoughts on that result and John Russell being appointed as the Shelbourne boss. Did that come as a surprise?
Yeah, well, listen, I suppose by the time it happened, it maybe took 48 hours from the story breaking that it was a possibility to it actually happening. When the story broke, it did catch me on the hop, all right, I will admit, yeah, very much so. I had done co-commentary on Shelbourne and Dundalk, I think the previous Friday night, and David Healy was sitting in the executive box that night. So I thought that must have been very close to being over the line, and news did break of David Healy then as well, I think, and I expected that to be how that would play out, but obviously something happened there. I don't know, and maybe they were talking to a couple of candidates at the same time, or maybe the David Healy one broke down for a reason, and it was at that stage that they turned their attentions to John, possibly.
I think it's fair to say as well, maybe when the news broke that Healy was a possibility, the fan reaction wasn't fantastic towards that either.
Yeah, might have fed into it to a certain extent. Yeah, might have fed into the decision making around it. Look, John has been firefighting at Sligo for the last couple of years, as we're all aware. You know, he would he have got Sligo out of it this time round? I don't know. I think he was going to be up against it this year. It's an absolute no-brainer from his point of view. Sligo or Shels fans, I would say Shels fans were, I don't know, I'm hazarding a guess here when I say maybe 60-40 in favour of the appointment when the appointment was made. The nature of football being as fickle as it is, that 60-40 seemed to swing in the opposite direction very, very quickly after that FAI Cup game. I mean, it is ridiculous that a guy can be handed a 3-year contract and then people can change their minds on whether he's the right guy or not based on one game. But that, as I say, that is the fickle nature of football. Listen, I'll be honest, Kieran. I sat down with John when I was Galway United manager. I looked at potentially John was just wrapping up his playing career, and I looked at potentially bringing him in with myself at Galway United, and just between one thing and another, and various different things that go on in those conversations didn't quite happen at the time, but I did find him a very impressive guy, that's for sure. And I think he has done a good job. I know you can look at where they are on the table at the moment, but as we say, we all know the kind of financial constraints he's been operating under there. So look, it's a big job. It's a big job. It's not going to come without its challenges for him. But I think if he can dig his way through the end of this season without any more kind of bombs like last weekend, and try and steal one or two places in the table and just get to the end of the season, I think for him, really, it's about what can he do in the off season and can he set them up for a proper go at things for next year.
It's definitely not an easy job he's walked into there, because look, Duffer was there and he felt at a certain point, I can't get much more out of this group, and he let Joey in then, and Joey got an initial kick and they qualified for the Conference League group stages, and then this season he couldn't just kick it on again, and he's gone, and now John's gone in, and immediately he's lost his best player. Harry Wood has moved to the UK. They brought a goalkeeper in yesterday, which they desperately needed to do, but they're probably still a striker short. They're arguably a centre half short. There does seem to be a bit of a rebuild needed there. I think a lot of Shels fans have said online, particularly after that game the other night, that there seems to be a lack of hunger within the group ever since they won the league title. I don't know whether that's fair or not, but that is just a feeling that's out there among some Shels fans online. So maybe it's not a complete rebuild, but there's a fair bit of rebuilding to do for John Russell there.
Yeah, I think so. And look, to be honest with you, I can't see huge scope for massive improvement in them over the remainder of this season, if I'm honest. And look, when you look at the table and what it would require for them to get themselves into Europe and that, I don't know if it's worth even throwing money at this year. I don't think it is, to be honest with you. I would kind of, paddle away there, pretty much for the rest of the season. You're going to finish fourth, fifth, sixth. I suppose fourth could technically still become a European spot with the FAI route, couldn't it? So maybe you could make the argument there that it's worth gambling on trying to get fourth and that becoming a European spot. But I definitely couldn't see them getting higher than fourth. I definitely couldn't see them finishing lower than sixth. So it's going to be fourth, fifth, or sixth, regardless of who the manager is or what signings they make. So are you better off keeping your powder dry and keeping the money until the off season and having a real good rattle at it there? I think you could make that argument.
I think, as you said, the carrot of possibly getting back into Europe through a top four finish is huge. So I just wonder, will it be a busy summer window for John Russell there? And you look at the team that's in fourth at the moment, Dundalk, Owen Kenny left, Arubi's left in the last week or so over to Burton Albion. They've lost their two best players. Injuries starting to mount up. They have no recognised striker on the books at the moment, and they obviously don't have the same sort of financial muscle at the moment that Shelbourne do to attract players. So you'd have to make Shels favourites to grab that fourth spot. So I think that's definitely going to be the target between now and the end of the season for John.
Yeah, and as you say, then it's just a case of sitting back and hoping for the best. Like, I suppose one of the targets when he came in, and obviously, look, it's hard you wouldn't be pointing too much of the finger of blame at him, because I'd say he's hardly had a training session with them before Saturday night's game. I think he was on the bench all right for Saturday night's game, wasn't he? But like, one of the targets when he was appointed would have been to try and win the FAI Cup.
Yeah.
Because as you say, that's a European route. So that one's immediately gone out the window. So now, your faith is very, very much in other people's hands. Now, look, we've seen how often that fourth has been good enough over the last few seasons. You look at it this time round and, who outside of Rovers, Bows and Pats is capable of winning an FAI Cup. I don't know if there is a whole pile out with Shels now gone as well already. Derry, it's hard to know if they could get their act together enough. So look, there is a hell of a chance that fourth could be good enough. The other one I'd throw out actually as well, Kieran, is, look, obviously at the time they did it, they surely didn't know who they were going to appoint, but even the Ellis Chapman one, could they not have held fire on that one for another week or two? I mean, he played his best football in the League of Ireland under John Russell. What's to say that John Russell couldn't have got a tune out of him?
And he's got 3 goals in his last two since he's gone up to Derry as well. So yeah, that's a very good point. I suppose we won't really cover it on this week's show too much, because by the time this is out, it'll be kind of old news. But Europe Rovers, they did turn around that second leg against Floriana, so they continue in the Champions League. Bows are through to the next round in the Conference League. Derry, after losing in the Europa, dropped down into the conference, and Shels are still there as well. So it's another big week in Europe coming up. Hopefully, some good results to come. But the draws that were held yesterday, some tough matches coming up. We could see Shels going up against Ajax, and I think Bows potentially up against some big opposition in the next round if they get through as well. So that's something we might cover at a later date. But with those European games taking place, there are just the 3 matches taking place in the League of Ireland Premier Division this week, Shane, but we're going to start getting stuck into those now. And the games on Saturday are quite big in particular, but we'll start with the Friday night game, which is live on Virgin Media, and that's the game between St. Pat's and Dundalk at Richmond Park.
Yeah. Look, Dundalk will be bitterly disappointed with their last league game, Kieran. They really will. I mean, we've saw it before. Obviously, Dundalk took off like a house on fire. We all know the story. They took off like a house on fire at the start of the season. They then went through a little patch where results turned a little bit on them. But they bounced back really, really well from it. 3 wins on the bounce, I think, or 4 and 5 possibly the last time they suffered back-to-back defeats. But this one is a gut wrencher for them. A local derby, a game where, Jesus, Kieran, I like, even on the back of 2 defeats, I mean, I still absolutely couldn't see Drogheda going and winning that game before the FAI Cup weekend. That will have been a real gut wrencher for them, and to have this run of results happen at the same time, obviously, as them losing what a lot of people would describe as their 2 best players, or look, along with I suppose Daryl Horgan is having a fantastic season too. Their 3 best players, let's say, anyway. Can't be a lot of positivity around Dundalk at the moment. There really can't. And I'd say, look, Kilduff has been near foot perfect since going into that role, and this is going to be his first really challenging period now from now until the end of the season. Look, if Dundalk finish in 6th place, Kieran, all things considered, when you look at things from the start of the year, you'd still be inclined to say to yourself, listen, brilliant season, never remotely within relegation trouble or anything like that. Still a brilliant season for them, but at the same time, just the momentum that they've generated, for that all to dissipate over the second half of the season, and for them to revert back to a selling club. Now, I know everybody in the League of Ireland to a certain extent is a selling club, but it's a pity for him. It's a pity for the supporters, and then maybe they'll be able to pull off 1 or 2 miracles in the window and get a level of quality in, but it's badly needed. The current squad, as you say, is really shy in that final third of the field. And look, probably not a massive surprise given everything I've said there, without even really touching on Pats too much. I would say Pats are firm favourites for this one, because it's just hard to make the argument for Dundalk at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I was at the Loud Derby that you're talking about there, and Dundalk in the first half, better team without doing huge piles. Drogheda very poor in the first half, and given Drogheda's troubles at the time, I just couldn't see them coming back. And then the second half performance from Dundalk, they just came out with the dressing room so sloppy, lethargic. They just looked way off it, and they were deservedly beaten, and should have been beaten by more than 2-1 in the end. It could have been 3-4-5 at the end. The Drogheda had so many chances on the break. So that's a really worrying performance. It was probably the worst second half performance I've seen from Dundalk since Kieran Kilduff went in there. And I just wonder now if they're starting to flag a little bit physically, and with the players they've lost as well. As for Pats, I was actually at their game on Friday in the FAI Cup against Wexford. Now, they made 5 changes from their last league game, but still a very strong team. Your Forresters, your McClellans, your Keenas, they were all playing for Pats. But Pats, they do struggle to break teams down for all the possession they had. When they don't move the ball with a lot of pace, they can become a little bit predictable. And that would be my concern about Pats, that if Dundalk go up there and sit in with a very low block, they might struggle to break them down. But with the quality they have, I mean, the winner they got on Friday was an Aidan Keena strike from range. I do expect them to win this game, but I don't think it'll be a repeat of the game we saw earlier in the year where they beat Dundalk. I think it was 4-0 up in Richmond. I think this is probably going to be a 1-goal winning margin, 2 at best.
Yeah, no, look, very much see where you're coming from. As you say, in addition to that Wexford performance that you've outlined, you go back to the previous league game, which is a 1-1 draw against Waterford. I know Waterford, much improved in recent weeks, but still, if
90,
Pats
95th minute penalty for Pats there on that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
and still, if Pats have any realistic ambitions of trying to give Rovers a proper go of it, they have to be winning games like that rather
And
than
that,
rely.
that draw against Waterford as well, that was in a game week where Rovers weren't playing because of Europe. This is another of those game weeks. They have to win to put the pressure on.
Ah, they do. And listen, we've spoken about before how frustrating they are because, as neutrals, we want a title race and we're looking at them and we're saying, right, you're well equipped here to give them a proper rattle at it. And every time they pick up a bit of momentum, then they just seem to, they throw in one or two that just seem to suck the life out of the momentum again. And yeah, listen, sometimes you're tipping a team on the strength of the team you expect to win. Sometimes you're tipping a team on the issues that you're looking more so with the opposition team, and that's certainly the case in this one. You wouldn't be looking at Pats at the moment and going, yeah, no doubt about them at the moment. They're flying. They look in top form. It's just the Dundalk side of things at the moment. Those 3 defeats and the bounce, the loss of players. Yeah, it's Pats. Listen, let's be honest, Pats have to. I think they can forget about any sort of league title challenge whatsoever if they don't win this one.
Yeah, I think we're both in agreement though. Pats have to win this game and probably just about will lock them in at 4-7 there. Shane, we'll move then to the Saturday matches, and they're absolutely massive. Saturday's a great day for League of Ireland football, really. You've got Galway United against Waterford, and you've got Sligo Rovers against Drogheda United, the bottom four taking each other on. We'll start with that game at Pearse Stadium between Galway and, as you said a few minutes ago, a resurgent Waterford FC.
Yeah, listen, it's when you look at the two games as a pair, as you say, Kieran, like we could come away on after Saturday night's results with an unbelievable battle on our hands if Sligo and Waterford were to go and win those two games. On the flip side, if Galway and Drogheda could win the two games, it's almost like you'd nearly be going as far as to say Waterford and Sligo are nearly battling amongst themselves then for the rest of the season as to which one finishes ninth and which one finishes 10th. Galway are it's a really intriguing one with Galway this year, Kieran, in that it's hard to get away from the reputation that they have and the reputation that John Caulfield has. You think Galway and you think, low scoring game, set pieces, 1-0 either way. That's not the reality of what we've
No.
seen the last couple of months. It couldn't be further from the reality of what we've seen over the last couple of months. So look, as dramatic could be in terms of their last league game, a late winner after throwing away. I think we're 2-0 up and
2-0 up
through
and a man up.
10. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And Kent Matty Wolf comes up with a late winner for them to steal it late on. I mean, you look at the other games in at their home games since during that period as well. 2-1 win against Derry, 4-2 defeat against Bohemians, 3-1 defeat against Shamrock Rovers. Like there's a lot of goals, even when they went up to Rovers, 3-1 defeat as well. There's a lot of goals in their games at the moment. That's for sure. So that whole, kind of boring, kind of stodgy reputation that they would have had is very much gone out the window at the moment. And I think this could be the same because you've got, obviously we've spoken about before, you've got a Waterford team who have, two, not one, but two outstanding number nines. And I don't think Waterford either are the kind of team that are going to be able to go and get themselves out of the relegation zone completely by trying to sneak 1-0 wins or trying to sneak set pieces. I think they've got to try and play open flowing football, try and create as many chances, keep the two boys high and defend with the rest of the team. And I can see plenty more goals in it. So I think it'll be a really tight game, but I can see plenty more goals.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, the last two head-to-heads between the sides, Waterford won 4-2 up there last July, and then this season, Galway won by 4-3 at Eamon DC Park. Now, this game taking place at Pearse Stadium, so maybe not as strong of a home advantage as playing at Eamon DC, but either way, the last two games have served up some absolute classics. So I think we're both expecting goals. What's your selection here for the listeners?
Yeah, we are. Look, I couldn't separate them. I think if Waterford were the home team here, Kieran, I'd probably be edging towards them. As you say, Galway home, even if it's not their actual home, but I still think that works slightly in their favour and levels it out. And yeah, I can see this one being a draw, so I'd be edging towards that.
Yeah, Waterford do have the weakest away record in the country alongside Galway, so a win might just be beyond them. But we'll put in the draw there, Shane. That's 29-10, and then Sligo Rovers against Drogheda United. Drogheda will be buoyed by that result in the Loud Derby. Sligo no manager. There's rumours linking that one of their top players, Will Fitzgerald, with the reunion with John Russell up in Tolka Park. So there's a lot going on in the background at Sligo. Will that have an effect going into this game?
Yeah, I think it could do. Look, it's an awkward situation there for Ryan Casey to deal with, really. The team down around the bottom. Like it's so unusual, Kieran. I actually would struggle to find another example, even outside of the League of Ireland, even if you look across the water, like when a manager departs a team that are bottom of the table, it's because he's been sacked. So therefore, the new manager is then looking to get the new manager bounce, which you hear so much about. I don't know, can you get a new manager bounce when the reason the manager is gone is because he's moved on upwards to bigger and better things? I think it's much harder to get a new manager bounce when you've lost your manager rather than sacked your manager. So I think it's a really difficult situation for Ryan Casey to manage. I don't know how long is Ryan going to be in charge there, or what's going on in the background in terms of looking for a new manager. But yeah, I think it's a tough gig for him, whether even if it's just a short-term gig. I think it's a very tough gig for him. And on the flip side, all the doom and gloom that we were chatting about just a couple of weeks ago against Drogheda, it's amazing how much of a difference one result can make to a fan base and to a team. But I mean, if there's any game that they wanted to pick 3 points up, going up, playing against their near neighbours and taking away the 3 points, that just must have a different complexion on everything around the club. I would also have thought, Kieran, another thing that feeds into this in the whole manager thing is, I think a lot of Drogheda fans would have feared the worst when they saw Shelbourne looking for a new manager. I think a lot of them would have thought, oh, could we be losing Kev here? And you've got a game now between two teams where, one set of fans thought they might lose their manager to Shels, and it's the other set of fans who have actually lost their manager to Shels. And I think that's a big swing. I think that's a very, very big swing. Drogheda then went up and continued the momentum of that great win against Dundalk by easily dispatching Lucan. So I think they're now all of a sudden back in a good place, and I think this is a tasty fixture for them. And even though Sligo are the home team, I'm going to say Drogheda are capable of coming across and actually winning that one.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the betting here, I have to say. Drogheda are 13-10 favourites. Sligo Rovers at home 19-10. The draw is 12-5. Drogheda haven't won up here since 2021, so it's a venue they've struggled at. And take the Dundalk win out of it. They had lost their previous 5 on the road, so I'm not sure I'd be rowing in behind Drogheda at that price, in all honesty.
Yeah, it's skinny enough. It's skinny enough. Look, I was picking them, I suppose, without even looking at the prices initially. But
You're
look,
going off the vibes.
that's it, exactly. Very, very much so, very much so. But no, listen, I'll stick with him to go across, even though the price is skinny. Stick with him to go across and get the job done there. Yeah.
Very good. So just to recap on Shane's selections for the Premier Division games this week in the League of Ireland. He's going for a Pats win at home against Dundalk at 4-7. The draw, Galway Waterford 29-10, and he's going for a Drogheda win in Sligo at 13-10. So if we put those in a treble, it comes out at just over 13-1. So you can build that on the Bar One betting app right now. As ever, markets for all of the Premier Division and First Division games and the European games this week, it can be found on the app and online. Gambling for over 18s only. See gamblingcare.ie. Right, Shane, give us your best bet for this week.
Yeah, I'm going to come back. To the game, as we said, two absolutely huge games at the bottom, and I'm going to come back to that Galway and Waterford one. I think both teams are going to go for it here. Both teams look a lot better in attack than in defence at the moment, but I do think there'll be little between them. So we'll go with the draw, Kieran, but we'll go with the goals as well. We'll say a draw and over 2.5 goals.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because, again, I was recording my own show last night between the Stripes, and myself and Gary during the Predictions League both went for a 2-2 draw in this one. So there seems to be that kind of school of thought out there that this is going to be an absolute banger of a game.
Yeah, no, you can see it. Look, Perot was on the score sheet in the last game as well. I think you've got Stephen Walsh, always good for one. Then obviously the two boys at Water banging him in all season. And you've also got quality midfielders capable of goals as well in the likes of McMenemy, Noonan, Twardek. Yeah, I think this should be a cracker all going well.
Yeah, Perot's starting to creep up with a few goals now and getting worried because I had a little side wager with a pal that he wouldn't get 10 goals in the league this season. Just trying to see what he's on here now. He's on 5.
5, yeah,
I
yeah.
might just get away with it. Might just get away with it. But you're going for Galway, Waterford draw, and over 2.5 goals. That's going to be boosted online and on the app this week from 8-1 up to 10-1. And as for your ACCA, which will boost in our shops, you can tell us about that. I like the look of this one, Shane.
Yeah, I know why. Yeah, I'm going to go with Pats to win that Premier Division game. As you say, things are just tough at Dundalk at the moment. I will go with Drogheda to go west and come back east with 3 points. And then yeah, looking down to the first division, Kieran, as I like to do with one of them every week. Your own Longford, my God, I'll be honest, I wouldn't have seen this at the start of the season
Nor
as
I.
being. Are you? Fair play for admitting it. No, listen, they've been fantastic in recent weeks. They really, really have. I think huge credit to the manager. I think I might have said that to you. I did one of my coaching badges with him way back, so I did UEFA B or even a youth cert or something like that. He's a gas man.
Mm.
So he is. And look, you're in flying form, doing so well in recent weeks. The vibe, I would imagine, around the club must be really good up there, is it?
Yeah, no, flying. Everyone's on cloud nine at the minute.
Yeah, they look the win, the Cork City win was colossal, absolutely colossal. Again, it's one of those ones that you just nobody in their right mind could have predicted that. And listen, the cup is the cup, and I know it's non-league opposition, but it's still nice. It's still nice to hit the back of the net 8 times. So I think there's huge
Longford's
momentum.
biggest ever competitive win.
Is it? Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
Stefan Bezier getting 4 goals, first town player to do that since maybe the 90s or so. I think Richie Parsons the last player to get 4 goals in one game.
Brilliant, fair play
Mm.
to them. Look, and they're coming up against a team who are in the complete opposite form, Kieran, at the moment. I think it's 1 win in 11 is
I will
Wexford.
say though, I was very impressed with Wexford at Richmond Park on Friday. They played really, really well, but you do see that at times. I've seen it with Longford in the past. Last season, they went up to Tala and were very unlucky not to get a result. 2 penalties for Rovers got them through against Longford. First division teams do have the ability to raise it for that big day, but when they go back into the league, then it can be back to reality very quickly.
Yeah, particularly, and no doubt, I've heard the same things that it was a very strong Wexford performance, and fair play for it. But when you get sucker punched so late in the game, on top of the fact that the league is going against you, it's just another hammer blow, and Elliot's going to have a real job on his hands there, trying to pick them up on the back of that and breathe some confidence back into them. And yeah, I think Longford are looking good for this one, Kieran.
Longford's record in this fixture, Longford have very much been Wexford's bogey team. They've won 4 of the last 5 meetings, and if you go back further than that, their record is very dominant in this. I remember if you go back a few years, I think it was almost 10 years since Longford lost against Wexford. So they just always seem to have their number. So I think that's a good selection, Shane, I have to say.
Fair play. We're in agreement for once.
So let's just recap on that. It's your ACCA this week, Shane. Pats to beat Dundalk, Drogheda to win in Sligo, Longford to win at home to Wexford again. Longford's home form very strong this season as well. That's the treble there, the ACCA, and we'll boost that also from 8-1 up to 10-1 in our shops this week.
Happy days. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm missing the Longford game on Saturday. I have the small matter of my wedding, so we might get it. We might get it on the big screen after dinner if we're lucky. If I speak nicely to the bride.
Where's your priorities at all?
I know, shocking.
It'll no doubt you'll manage to keep a sneaky eye on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, no doubt we'll keep up to date.
She knows what she knows what she's let herself into for this
Yeah,
day.
I
Or
think
she'd
that
expect less of you.
I think that's fair to say. All right. Look, Shane, thanks a million. Great show again.
Great stuff, Kieran.
Thanks a million. We'll catch up again soon.
Bye bye.